can't come to the phone right now. I'm listening to Party Talk Podcast.
Welcome to the Party Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Cooper Keimig, back with Chris Keimig. Today is going to be about NFL Fantasy Week 18, a little bit of wrap-up of the fantasy season. For those of you who are still playing fantasy, I'm sorry you have to start Jeff Driscoll this week. It's going to be tough for you. Anybody who's still playing fantasy football in Week 18, I feel bad for you. Get that switch next year. Today's episode, we're going to be kind of recapping how the fantasy season went, how the fantasy championship went in Week 17. And, yeah. So let's start out with a little recap of the championship week, Week 17. Let's look at some mega stars, some players who kind of won you the championship if you did end up winning, or players who went off. So we got Kyron Williams. He put up 30 fantasy points. Isaiah Pacheco, 29. These are all PPR fantasy points. CeeDee Lamb put up 40 PPR points. Devontae Adams, 37. You got Lamar Jackson, kind of cemented as the MVP with 36 PPR points. DJ Moore, 31 PPR points. The surprising one, Jordan Love with 28 PPR points. And then you got Breece Hall with a nice solid 27. Let's take a look at some players who probably lost you the week. I have two of these guys that I started in the same league. These are the super duds. You got Alvin Kamara. He put up a whopping 7 PPR points. I think he did get injured, but that's tough. Patrick Mahomes, we'll talk about him a little bit later, a whopping 12 PPR points. Got Jamar Chase with 7 PPR points. Jahmyr Gibbs with 5. Stephon Diggs with 7 PPR points. Travis Kelce with 4. Derrick Henry with 4. Man, what happened to these studs? All right. Well, for those of you who won, congratulations. For those of you who lost, we can cry together. Let's take a look at a player who was a surprising championship Week 17 MVP. My player is going to be James Conner. You know, this player isn't necessarily surprising to win my championship MVP. He's been very good over the last couple years. It's more of his matchup that he had. I didn't have very high expectations. He played against the Eagles last week, which is a very tough matchup for running backs. He scored 26.3 PPR points against, like I said, one of the hardest running back matchups in the league. It's just a true masterclass, and he's my surprising championship MVP. All right.
Hey, Coop, did you want to release some stress and maybe talk about your loss in the Little Debbie Championship game?
Not really, but
talk about things.
I'll go ahead and do it. So my team put up an amazing performance, projected to win. I had Jamar Chase left while having a huge lead, I think 30 points. And all he had was Harrison Butker and the other, who was it? Chase Brown, who put up 2
Chase
points.
Brown.
So I'm up 30 points with Jamar Chase playing, and he has Chase Brown, the Cincinnati Bengals backup running back, and Harrison Butker. And if you can't tell by my tone, I lost. Harrison Butker, what feels like set a franchise or even an NFL record of field goals made in the game. 6 field goals. Ends up kicking me out of the playoffs, and I lost the championship. Very upset about it. It was the worst loss I've ever had in fantasy.
You were projected to win 99%.
99%.
5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
It was a bad loss, but we move on.
You still cash in that league. You still get some good money.
All right. Well, let's do a little recap of the 2023 fantasy year. We're gonna give a little some awards away today, and some some bad awards as well. Let's start off with this year's fantasy rookie of the year. Who you got, Chris?
I had Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, we don't talk about kickers much unless Jaden's on, but Mr. Butter, the number one kicker of all fantasy, 171 points, 35 for 35 on field goals this year. The NFL record is 37 for 37, Mike Vanacek in 2003, so he has a chance to break that this year. Not bad for a rookie, and not bad for a kid that never played college football. So I think he's the MVP for rookies this year. And then C.J. Stroud, he was doing great. So the injuries at the end kind of slowed him down a little bit, but he's going to be a top pick next year, I think.
Yep, I agree with those. I appreciate you not taking mine. My fantasy rookie of the year. It's Puka Nacua. He finished as the wide receiver 5 on the season. He averaged 17.8 PPR points per game. Just absolutely insane for someone who wasn't drafted in many leagues. He's about to break the rookie receiving record this week. I think he needs like maybe 40 more yards. They're benching Stafford. They're benching Cooper Kupp. They're letting Puka get it. I could see him getting every single pass the first quarter, and then they'll yank him. Just an absolute stud this year. A rookie finishing wide receiver 5 on the season. Just absolutely insane. All right. Let's do the most improved in fantasy award. My most improved player is Nico Collins. In 2022, Nico Collins, he was a middling receiver, averaging about 9 PPR points per game. I think he only played in 10. He only started in like 7 or so. But in comes C.J. Stroud. And now Nico Collins is wide receiver 18 on the season with a week left to go. Wide receiver 15 per game. All this while sharing the exact same workload with Tank Dell when he was healthy. And Nico Collins even missed a few games. So he's my most improved fantasy player this year. Let's give the award for the best fantasy value. Who you got, Chris?
In our Little Debbie League, last round pick, drafted by the Iowa State Regulators, was Kyren Williams of the Rams. He finished number 5 on the year. And I think I'm in another. I might be our sleeper league. He wasn't even drafted at all, and I snapped him up. But for being drafted, I got Kyren Williams of the Rams.
And he finished running back 5. What do you
5,
miss?
yep.
5 games when he was on IR this week or this year?
That's pretty good.
That is crazy.
I mean, I like yours too, but Kyren Williams did wonders for a lot of people.
Yep. This one's a personal one for me. My fantasy best value this year is Raheem Mostert. Coming out of drafts this year, he was around running back 40 off the board. He finished as a running back 3 overall. This is while missing a few games and leaving some early. I believe he's questionable this week, but he's tied for the touchdown lead this season, and Christian McCaffrey's out this week, so I could see him playing. He gets one more touchdown, and he leads the NFL in touchdowns this year. You know, wide receiver 40, finishes as wide receiver 3. Can't beat that value. All right, let's take a look at the Fantasy MVP Award. This can only go to one, but we'll give our top favorites. Who you got, Chris?
I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. I wish I had him on my team, and I had a chance to pick him. But he snubbed me 2 years in a row, so I skipped him. But kicking myself for doing that. He's the number 2 running back. He outscored the number 2 running back, Travis Etienne, by 120 points. That's a lot. I mean, that's like tight end when Kelsey was awesome numbers. So I go with McCaffrey, I think. I know shares. That's why he didn't play Fantasy Weekend Championship.
Yeah. It's hard to get a lot of shares of players going in the first round, especially somebody who is a consensus top 3 pick. So I wish I would have got him, but I only drafted top 3, I think, once this year, so I didn't get any of him. Mine are gonna be I'm gonna give it out to 2 players, a little Poe award. I'm gonna go Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb, 2 wide receivers drafted in the middle to late first round. Tyreek Hill finished second overall, and then CeeDee Lamb finished 4th overall. That's amongst all players, including quarterbacks, running backs, obviously. In their weekly average amongst all of them. Tyreek Hill averaged 23.6 PPR points per game. CeeDee Lamb averaged 23 PPR points per game. Both of them scored more than 50 points, more than the next receivers after them. I think it was Amon-Ra after them. When they were on the field, they won you your week. So my dual fantasy MVPs, Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb. All right. Womp womp. The fantasy bust of the year. Who's your fantasy bust of the year, Chris?
I'm looking at these guys we have, and they're all on my team. So what the hell? So I'll pick just one, and you can pick other players I had on my team. Austin Eckler, number 25 running back of the year. He was my number 1-2. He's my the second pick in the first round, and I took him over McCaffrey. Like I said, 2 years in a row, McCaffrey burned me, so I just couldn't do it. So I thought, what the heck? Eckler had an awesome year too. He's always doing pull-ups and showing everybody's muscles. So I drafted him, and he's dead to me now because I think he's just too old. He's kind of like Travis Henry. I think take him out to the junkyard. I'm not gonna pick either one of those guys next year.
Yeah, Austin Eckler is somebody who I drafted, I think, 3 years in a row before this year, and he's been so good to me. And I'm lucky I didn't have a chance to draft him, so I kind of walked away happy with that.
McCaffrey, who he took this year.
I would have took McCaffrey, but
Yeah.
I mean, they both kind of had the same injury questions. I know McCaffrey's been hurt more in his career, but Austin Eckler, before the 2 years, he was getting hurt every year, just like McCaffrey was. But I would have probably stuck with that 49ers offense. That would have been the pick for me.
Yeah. All right, talk about my other players you got here.
Yep. Like I said, you got 2 of them. They're both on your team. Might do another co-award. The first one is Patrick Mahomes. He finished as a QB7 on the season, and he was pretty much the consensus QB1 off the board. He was getting drafted in the first round in some leagues. He only averaged 17.5 PPR points per game. That's a wide receiver average. That is awful. His ADP in drafts was picked 20th overall. That's, second round, mix some first round in there. I'm going to give some notable quarterbacks to average more points this year. You got Jordan Love, Joe Flacco, Kirk Cousins, and Brock Purdy. All those average more points than Patrick Mahomes, who was the QB1 off the board.
And not only did I draft him in 2 leagues, I drafted him in the second round because I knew I wanted to grab him. I wanted him that bad.
Yeah.
I paid the price.
To be fair, all quarterback scoring this year is down. Last year was very high, and Mahomes, he was crazy points scored at the end of the season, so it was justified. But watching their games this year, their wide receivers cannot catch the ball. Travis Kelce's probably going to retire. He doesn't look healthy. I feel bad for him, but that's fantasy, man. And then my other fantasy bust of the year is Tony Pollard. He's a guy I did want to draft this year, but I didn't get a chance to, and I'm glad I didn't. He finished running back 14 overall, and he didn't miss any games. He averaged 12.9 PPR points per game. I'll give some notable players who averaged the same or more points per game. Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson, and Joe Mixon. Tony Pollard was a guy who was drafted in the end of round 1, start of round 2. I feel like I picked on him all season, and it's justified. He didn't look the same that he did last year, so those are my co-fantasy busts of the year. All right, let's talk about some fantasy players who worked out for you. Some of your best picks you made this year, Chris. Who you got?
Yeah, I got Nico Collins in the 10th round, I think twice this year. I thought that was pretty good value. Keenan Allen is the 37th pick and the 39th pick, and he was wide receiver 3 for most of the year till the end. He started getting banged up a little bit. I got Jordan Addison twice in the 9th round, and he had some big breakout games. I don't think I started him those weeks, but he was like my wide receiver 3 or 4. So 9th round, that's not bad.
Yeah. I got a couple here in the Little Debbie League that we talked about the result in that. I finished second. I drafted Raheem Mostert in the 9th round. In that same league, I got a Devon Achane in the 11th, which is a good pick, but it didn't really work out for me. I'll explain later. And then I got Sam Laporta in the 13th. There's a little bit of a trend here. I was very high on Sam Laporta in the offseason, and that's probably one of my better calls that I had. In the Quad City Annual Fantasy Football League, I drafted Nico Collins in the 12th round. I got Jalen Warren in the 13th, and I got Sam Laporta in the 14th. So those are just some of the players that I drafted pretty good this year, and it worked out. Who do you think your best pickup of the year was, Chris? Or a couple of them if you have them.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. The early picks just killed me. I had Eckler, Mahomes, Pollard. But what helped me is the waiver wire. I scooped up a couple guys, and I'm not a big waiver wire guy early. I kind of let my players play out. But I got C.J. Stroud in 2 leagues. After about week 4 or 5, I'd seen him doing pretty good. So I kind of moved on from my other backup. I got Puka in 2 leagues right after that first week. I think I got beat the first week in the sleeper league, and I got like the first pick in the draft, the free agent pick. So I got Puka, and I picked him up in another league. Late October, I got McBride. I thought that was a huge pick. I kind of like Kincaid that week, and I went with McBride, so that paid off. Kyron Williams in the sleeper league. That was huge. Matter of fact, I picked up Puka and Kyron Williams on the same day. And then Keaton Mitchell real early November. He was a stud for a couple weeks till he got hurt. So
yep. So I had a couple. I added Kyler Murray, who was on IR at the time, a few weeks before Kirk Cousins got injured. Kirk was my starting quarterback, and he's the only quarterback I had on my team. So that was a good pickup for me. I got Devin Singletary on the waiver wire. It's not an exciting one, but when he was getting the load of the touches, he was putting up 15, 20 points per game, so that helped for me. Some more exciting ones. In the same league, I added Puka Nacua, C.J. Stroud, Brandon Aubrey, Trey McBride, and Kyron Williams. If you're thinking I won this league, no, I did not. I started 0-4. It's an 8-man league, and I lost Saquon and T. Higgins. So, slim pickings. But yeah, this is the league I went on that insane run I was kind of talking about a couple weeks ago. I think I won 6 in a row, but I just missed the playoffs after that bad start. All right, let's talk about something sad. The worst drop of the year for you. Who's a player that you regret dropping?
I had Zach Moss and Devin Achane in the same week. I dropped them. My big California league. Achan, the very first week he didn't play at all. I think he did not even play. And then the next week he went one run for 5 yards. And I said, I got to move on from this guy. Then right after I drop him, Achan goes for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Moss goes for 20 points, 22 points, 9, 33, 17. 5 weeks in a row, he just tore it up, and they were gone.
Yeah. Did in the Little Debbie League I'm in with you, did you have Devon A. Chain this year?
I can't remember. I liked him in the spring, exhibition season, but I can't remember if I had him in that league too.
Yeah, so, my worst drop of the year is Devon A. Chain. I picked him in 15 minutes before the kickoff of the first Sunday of the NFL season. I ended up dropping him, and I was taking a look at the activity, the waiver report in our Little Debbie League, and you were the one who picked him up after I dropped him. So, yeah,
Well,
there's that.
I probably dropped him the next right after that because he didn't play that first week.
Yeah, he was. I think he was injured the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then after that, he just went off. But yeah, all right. I got one more question for you. You got the first overall pick next year. Who you taking?
Well, it's got to be Chris
Fantasy.
McCaffrey. I got Chris McCaffrey first pick.
Yeah, it's tough. He's turning. I think he just turned 28, or he's turned to 28. It's kind of
Oh, that kind of changes things, man. That's getting old for a running back.
Yeah.
I'd probably trade my first pick in the draft to the 12th pick in the draft and go that way.
I know Christian McCaffrey's a different animal, but
Or Tyreek Hill. I like Tyreek
yeah,
Hill. Or CD Lamb, man. He finished the season strong.
yeah. Christian McCaffrey, he's a different animal. He's a fantasy stud, fantasy Hall of Fame player. But if you look at the running backs in his class, I think was it 2016 or 2017? Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, they're all the same age, and they're hitting their
Is that
fall
Travis
off.
Henry in that class too?
Huh?
Travis Henry in that class?
I think Derrick Henry was
Or
a
Derrick
little bit
Henry?
before.
Yeah, Travis, that's a different guy.
But yeah, I mean, if I had the first pick, it'd be hard to pass up Christian McCaffrey. But I might take Tyreek. I might. Depends on who the Vikings quarterback is. I could take JJ again. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's gonna be interesting.
Yep.
Why replay it? Every year's different.
Yep. All right. That'll do it for the Party Talk podcast. The
Hey,
next
just
episode.
Coop, just a reminder, all that money you won in football, my birthday's coming up real soon on 26th. So shoot me a present this way.
Maybe I'll let you be the host on the next episode of the podcast. You can record it on your iPad.
All right, I'll try my best.
All right, for those who are still listening, the next episode will probably be we're getting into the MLB season, so be on the lookout for that. All right, thanks for tuning to the Party Talk podcast. Catch you next time.
See ya.
See ya.